halftime show. Oh, Terry Ford. Tyler Head is back. Look at this guy. David Dare was in here. Elijah. We're having a conversation, Tyler, that we had to do this. Had to say, okay, I'm hitting the mic. We have to stop talking about this topic of conversation because we're all going to get fined and fired and sued.
First of all,
it was one of those.
First of all, I feel like I may need to reintroduce myself to the noon to 3 crowd. It's been a week. I don't remember my computer login password, so I'm going to have to figure that out. For those that don't know, when I fill in for Bill, which I've done since last Thursday, I don't come over to the producer side.
No.
So I haven't been in here to push the buttons and all this kind of stuff. I don't remember my login.
That's hilarious.
So I'm going to have to dig through my phone and see if I wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah, isn't that bad? Because you sit there and you go, you do it so much, sure. It gets in your head.
Of course.
And then after a while, it's just like autopilot. And then you don't do it for, like you said, about a week.
Yeah, I'm like, what was my login?
What the hell was it? Oh my God, I can't remember. What have I done? Then you hope you put it in your phone.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because I did that. I had I forget what it was called, but I had this little app that was already on my phone, like a notepad or whatever it was.
Right.
And I made a folder in the notepad with my passwords and all that stuff so I wouldn't forget them. It's not like I'm some kind of password genius. I'm not. I'm like everybody. You come up with certain stuff you hope you can remember. But I put them in there. And then one day I go to hit that little app and it wouldn't open. It wasn't there. Then it popped up with the new and improved whatever it was.
Oh, no.
And the new and improved, ready, first of all, had a bunch of ads on it.
Great.
And guess what it didn't have anymore?
Any of your old stuff.
It didn't. So at that point, to show my phone who's boss, I decided not to put that back in again. So but right now, if I don't know my passwords, I'm screwed. You know what I do now? I hit the forget password thing.
Well, and that's the thing with our network computers here. We don't have that option.
I know.
So I have to remember what it was.
I did the other day because my daughter wanted the Disney, Hulu, ESPN password, even though I've given it to her 5,000 times. And again, I don't have that thing on my phone anymore. And I'm like, okay, what did I? So I tried a couple of my go-tos. They didn't work, so I just said, screw it. I texted her back, just hit forget password, please.
See, here's the thing. And I have a base of passwords, right? Mm-hmm. Where I have something similar with all of them, but then you change the character or whatever it is on the back end of it. And some places to make you change it every 90 days or whatever. So I have a good, foundation of what a password should be. Mm-hmm. It's just figuring out the other combinations on either end of it that I came up with for this one.
Nice.
So
how's that working for you?
That'll be fun.
How's that working for you, bud?
I've tried 5 times and no success yet. So we shall see.
Anyway, that's good to have Tyler back as we for a few days, and Bill's out for another day. But yeah, good to have Tyler back here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, as we hang here till 3 on the game. A little bit more information. Obviously, Board of Trustees meeting yesterday. What we knew was happening happened. Paul Mainieri, the new baseball coach at South Carolina. In
a way, don't you almost kind of miss where things actually were a mystery until the press conference? And we're in today's age of social media where, again, Teddy Cahill, Baseball America, gets this on Monday afternoon, and then it's everywhere. And even before the Board of Trustees meet, we know what's going to happen. But there used to be a day years ago where, you would go into a press conference, not really know what was going to be said or who's going to be coming out. And oh, my God, it's Paul Mainieri. We're kind of, unfortunately, past that.
Oh, I know. We had the whole thing. Well, it was funny because we were sitting here, early Monday. And I think you said to me when you were taking off at noon, you were like, man, I hope something happens soon. We'll run out of angles. So I go, yeah, we are.
I mean, we had our list, and I feel like we'd examined them 6 ways from Sunday. We knew how people felt about each hire or potential hire. And it's like, all right, at least hire one of these guys, right?
Right. We Twitter polled our tail off. We got people that covered programs where there was a candidate. We were doing all that stuff. We were just, we were like, okay, what's the new angle here?
Give me something.
Please. And then we got something thanks to Teddy. Monday afternoon. And Teddy was on it, so give him his props. And he even said to you that he was like, didn't know who the mystery candidate was, and all of a sudden he heard a little something that said Paul Mainieri, and he was like, oh, really? And he started digging a little bit, and then he got more and did the story.
I didn't. What's that? What's the show on Food Network where they have the mystery ingredient?
Yeah.
I didn't know that's how this was going down.
I'm gonna say this: when it comes to food, I want to pass on mystery ingredients.
Well, it's not that you just don't know what the ingredient's going to be until they like.
Have you ever eaten something in your life where you liked it till you found out what was in it?
Usually, if I'm worried, I don't ask. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't want to know usually because it's going to ruin it for me.
Again, I love hot dogs. You don't got to show me how you make it.
No,
I have a vague idea of what that process is, but I don't need confirmation. And
obviously it's changed over the years. But I remember when I was like late elementary school, I did a book report on hot. Because I always loved hamburgers more than hot dogs, but I liked the hot dog.
Sure.
So I did a thing on the hot dog, and part of it was getting the ingredients. And once I saw the ingredients in a hot dog, I was like 12. I didn't eat a hot dog till I was like 19.
Well, you can go the impossible hot dog route like Joey Chestnut now.
But we're going to talk about that at some point today.
Good.
This might be the most asinine story I've heard in a long time, but it's entertainingly asinine.
I can also give you some updated, betting favorites for the hot dog contest if you want to get in on that action.
But like I said, we'll talk about it later. But my favorite line of all this was to my fans. I'm like, look, Joey, I give you props because you can eat hot dogs like nobody's been, like no one ever, right? But is there really a huge Joey Chestnut fan club?
Listen, we all become fans on July the 4th.
And then by July the 4th at 2 o'clock?
We don't know what he does the other 364 days, but by God, he shows up on July 4th and eats 80 hot dogs.
And I love the idea there's a professional eating league.
Major League Eating.
Major League Eating or whatever the hell it's called. And look, I give you credit. If you can eat more than other people and people will pay you for it, that's great.
My thing is it goes past the point of enjoyment because we all love hot dogs, but when you're dipping them in water and the mushy buns and all that kind of stuff, you've gone out the window of enjoyment.
Can I be honest with you? I don't watch it because I can't.
You don't. See, that's the thing. A lot of people are very put off by it. I love it. Now July 4th is my wife's birthday, but it's one of my favorite things about July 4th, getting to watch the hot dog contest.
It'd be good for this July 4th to celebrate. Honey, why don't we just sit on the couch and watch these people wolf hot dogs? Happy birthday.
Joey Chestnut's here. It's an open field.
This is going to be so compelling.
I got $200 on that guy. You bet $200 on that hot dog eating contest.
I think you want to say, I think you need to go to Gamblers Anonymous.
You need to call the number.
Yes, you do. So we'll talk more about it later because it's fun. This is a topic that is just funny in so many ways, and we'll get to it later. The outrage of Joey Chestnut, and this whole situation's funny. All right, obviously with Paul Mainieri, a couple things. You pulled some really good sound, Tyler, we're going to get to on the show. And multiple folks said this yesterday because we had Matt Moscona from 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge on this show and also on the postgame show with Jay talking about this from, because again, Paul Mainieri was at LSU for over a decade and was very successful. So they kind of know Paul, and Matt covered Paul's entire career. Also, we talked to Mark Etheridge from D1 Baseball, and he kind of said the same thing. Is South Carolina going to open up the wallet to be competitive on the highest of levels in college baseball in 2024? And look, that question will obviously be answered not just today, but as you move forward. But I think if that is a question, you feel better about the answer with what you saw yesterday about the amount of money South Carolina pushed onto the table for baseball.
Absolutely.
I mean, Mainieri's making 1.3, a little more than 1.3 million, which puts him right in the middle of the SEC, right under Dave Van Horn at Arkansas. So you got a guy who is making a little bit more than Lamonis at Mississippi State. Because Lamonis is at 1.3.
I mean, the resume suggests that's about where he should be.
So to start someone there, which is something Ray Tanner hasn't done with his hires, since Muschamp. Muschamp got paid.
He'd never really hired somebody with a ton of head coaching experience prior besides Muschamp.
And we'll push the Muschamp thing aside, but the recent hires have been guys who didn't have a lot of experience or no experience on the power conference level or SEC level, and guys that were near the bottom of the salary order in the conference.
Right.
So, and Mark Kingston, even with the bump in salary, was still only making $700,000, which was, again, near the bottom.
Again, you're paying Mainieri almost double that.
Almost double. And then you've popped Monty Lee over $500,000. Terry Rooney's making over $600,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Henry comes in, we'll see what Henry's salary is going to be. So you're going to drop an assistant pool of probably $1.5 million, $1.3 million on the head coach. You're almost at $3 million in staffing for baseball.
Right.
Again, nothing answers that question about all in financially totally right now, but you got to feel really good with the all in you saw yesterday.
Right.
You really have to, because again, Paul Mainieri's not showing up here for $800,000. No, he's not. And it's just not happening. And to be honest with you, Rooney's not showing up unless he's getting paid.
Right.
And Monty Lee's not staying most likely unless he's not getting paid.
And that was the worry when, again, you kind of look at the track record of what Ray Tanner hires have been in the past. Like, okay, you kind of have a range of where you think this is going to be, in addition to the fact that you're also hiring a softball coach and a golf coach as well, in addition to paying those coaches buyouts. Like, how much money do you have to put into this program? And that was a concern that maybe they wouldn't be able to wouldn't be willing to pony up what they needed to, but they've gone all out. That you're investing, and again, we got to find out what Hendry's contract is going to be, but around $2.5 million per year into this coaching staff.
And that tells you that if you had that concern of spending the money on this part of it, right?
Right.
You got to feel much better about South Carolina, breaking out the ATM card.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk more about the staff because we only touched on this a little bit yesterday because we were so focused on Paul Mainieri. But let's talk about the staff that has been put in place. It feels like you did really well. It really does. Well, again, we'll never know. We'll never know until this thing plays itself out. All we can do is give an opinion on what we think of the hire. That's all you can do. And we're going to talk about the staff that's been put in place here as well coming back. And we're going to get some sound of the millions of people we've talked to in the last 24 to 36 hours.
I'll keep you updated on the password thing,
and we'll see if Tyler can actually get into the system to play the sound
from
the last 24, 36 hours.
Well, no, the sound is good.
Oh,
it's
good?
Just the other stuff I got to log in for him. Not quite there yet.
If you know how to hack into a computer, please help us. 803-404-6100. You want to jump in on Love Show phone line, Firehouse subtext line. Feel free to participate. Your thoughts on the Carolina baseball head coaching hire and the assistant hire. Feel free. We're going to get into the assistants and the staff next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, rolling it up till 3 here on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, as we roll up until 3 here on the game. And if you're hanging with us in Columbia or Florence or Myrtle Beach, thanks a lot. Appreciate you. Obviously, our big story, Paul Mainieri, the new head coach for the South Carolina Gamecocks baseball program. And, Tyler, I don't know if I should say the theme of yesterday, but one of the things that was brought up multiple times yesterday was not only getting the hire right, and part of getting the hire right is investing in the program financially.
Sure.
Because, again, Mark Kingston sitting at $700,000, one of the lowest paid coaches in the SEC. One of, was it 4 or 5 coaches making under $1 million in the conference?
Yeah, something like that.
So the question mark was, is South Carolina going to break out the ATM card? And whether you're putting it in there, you're tapping it, whatever you're doing with it, are you going to spend the money you need to spend to get yourself back to the upper level of the SEC? And we just said, the money spent, you got to go thumbs up on that. They spent the money.
Right.
And the staff, if you look at it, Terry Rooney is an excellent recruiter. Manny Lee is an excellent recruiter. Manny Lee's an old L.A. Dodger player. Monty Lee is an excellent recruiter. Maybe Manny Lee is too, for all I know, if he's still alive. And you're bringing a guy, Henry, from a program that just all the time now goes to Omaha.
Right.
It feels like you did a heck of a job with the staff.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, we still have to see what happens on the field when the spring rolls around next year. But up to this point, I think you've checked pretty much every single box of what you would expect a program like this that wants to get back to a certain level needs to do.
Yeah, so the staff looks really good. I mean, you kept Monty in place, and that will hold on to continuity, for lack of a better term, with the players already here who love Monty.
And it sounds like a lot of the players, at least from what we've seen on Twitter, voice their support of it, which I'm assuming means they're going to be sticking around.
And obviously, Mainieri's got to talk to the players. And I'm sure he's starting that process probably already. 'Cause the first phone call, what's that Petrie kid's number?
Yeah.
We got, thanks.
Oh, that should have been, the second the ink dries on the contract. All right, give Ethan a call.
Exactly. So you're so far we've seen no one new hit the portal for South Carolina.
Right.
And that's a good thing. And I just feel like a really good staff has been put in place for what you need because, I think Matt Moscona said it. I forget. We have so many people on this radio station yesterday.
I know.
Said Paul
Including
is not
Moscona
going
twice.
to. Yeah, exactly. It was so funny. Jay and I, great communication in the communication business. So someone yesterday said that, again, Mainieri is 67 years old. To think he's going to go recruit like a 37-year-old or a 47-year-old and run around there, well, no, because that's at this point, you want staffers to do that. Now, Monty's a really good recruiter. Rooney's a really good recruiter. Those guys will be out there doing a lot of heavy legwork for you. And also, I think I forget again yesterday who said this. It might have been Etheridge. When you're this age, the one thing you do is you understand, all right, I used to do this, but I want to conserve my energy for this, and this.
Sure.
So I'm going to now delegate some things I wouldn't have delegated 20 years ago. And you have a staff. I mean, Monty's what, around 50?
Yeah, a little past 50.
Yeah, Rooney's around
50 as
50.
well.
So you got guys who still got it going on.
Sure.
And Henry's a younger guy. So I like the makeup of this. And we'll say it a million times. Obviously, the proof is in the results in the next so many years. But what they've done today and yesterday, I think is a huge step in the right direction.
No, absolutely. And a reason for the fan base to get excited too. And that was a big thing for me. And we talked about, the apathy the fans seem to have for Kingston through really since I've been here, going back to last spring, where people thought maybe he should have already been removed at that point in time. And then as the season went along, even in big series like Arkansas and Georgia and stuff like that, there just didn't seem to be that same energy that this program had in years past when welcoming a big name opponent to town. And I think a lot of that was the fan base not believing that Coach Kingston was going to be able to get them to that level that they wanted to get to. So now you go out there with a guy that has a great resume, has a national championship trophy in his trophy case. You've thrown all the appropriate money at him and his assistants. Like, I don't know what could get you more excited about this team next year.
You know, apathy also equals loss of hope.
Right.
And I think this fan base, not everybody, but a percentage of this fan base, how big, I don't know. I think they had lost hope that what this program was the last so many years was going to be what it used to be or what they wanted or hoped it would be. They had lost hope in this previous regime to get them where they believe they should be. Old Paul, he's been where you want to get to many times.
Right.
And I feel like they put a staff together that, like you said, checks the boxes you want checked. And Mainieri's track record checks all the boxes you want checked. And the money that was spent checks the boxes. And here's, for an example, here is Mark Etheridge. This is cut 12, Tyler. Oh, no, 13, I'm sorry. No, let's go with 12 first. The importance of a good staff and investing in the program. Mark Etheridge yesterday from D1 Baseball talked about how vital this is.
Yeah, that's. I think it's vital. It would be vital for any coach, but it's certainly vital for one who's, who hasn't been, making those decisions. And certainly with Terry Rooney's role, it was more like a general manager kind of guy for, that helped with the roster and all that. So that's, he certainly has that skill set. He's at LSU. They do it as well as anyone. So he understands what it takes. And then you get, if Monty is remains on staff, you have continuity, a very respected guy, good hitting coach, a lot of recruiting connections, all of those different things. That's a good staff. I mean, already, and they would have another person to add. So from that, it's I would be really hopeful if I'm a South Carolina fan, because you got a guy with a proven track record. You got a staff that understands how to, what it takes. The question I would have is, just how committed is South Carolina? Because, in this world, to compete at the top of the conference, you've got to have NIL. You've got to do things for those athletes to compete with those that are doing it. So that'll be, we'll see how that transpires, because you look at the teams that are still playing, and they're all active in this NIL game. So, it doesn't take someone who's a brain surgeon to figure out what you need to do.
And that's the other step of investing in NIL. And however you've gone so far in South Carolina, what we hear is kind of in the middle of the conference in NIL, right?
Right.
That's what we hear. Now you want to, how much can you boost your NIL even more? That's the thing.
I mean, when you have a fan base that believes they're going to take a step forward, then, hey, I'm willing to give my $20 a month or whatever it may be, where I might have been a little bit reserved with that before because they didn't think Kingston had what it took.
And that's what the point I was driving to with the NIL here is, now you're going to get more because you believe again. You have hope again.
Sure.
Now you're like, oh, that guy?
Yeah.
You got that guy? Okay, hey, let me get my ATM card. Hold on for a minute.
Exactly.
And that can only be a positive to, get more NIL dollars. Look, here's the thing, Tyler, and this is going to be, look, everything changes, right? I think NILs, they might be called something different in the new world coming.
Sure.
But if you think collectives are going away,
They're not.
They're not. How much of coaching decisions, because let's just look back at this situation in South Carolina. By the way, last year you went to a Super.
Mm-hmm.
You were 2 wins away from the College World Series.
Yep.
This year, obviously, everything underachieved. And now you have a new baseball coach. And it's more of, you've been to the Supers only twice, under Kingston. You haven't gotten to Omaha. You've had some years that haven't been what you would ever want. And there were circumstances for that, to be fair. But how much of a change in coach is thinking this too? Okay, we have apathy in the fan base, but even more important, do we have apathy in the NIL fan base?
Right.
Is where this program now, or is this going to hinder us from NIL contributions? How much of that is going to come into decisions moving forward? Just saying.
Yep.
Even whatever these things are called, they're going to be around. They're going nowhere.
Right.
So we'll see. All right, we'll come back. Also hear what Matt Moscona said, the Baton Rouge perspective of this. Coming up next, halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, till 3 on the game. Obviously, what you're talking about and we're still talking about, Paul Mainieri, the new head coach at South Carolina to guide the baseball program. Terry Ford, Tyler Head till 3 here on the halftime show. By the way, postgame show, Jay and Elijah will be hanging out at Angry Fish in Lexington tomorrow from 3 to 6 p.m. Again, Angry Fish, I love those guys. I love the slogan. It's like, we drink all the beer we can and sell the rest. That's so cool.
It's pretty honest.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And when we were out there, they were like, hey, sample this. Hey, sample that. Check this out. Check that out. Yeah, it's like, no, we're on the air. Yeah, is that really a big deal? No, you're right. Yeah, give me that. Bring me a flight. Bring me a flight of crafts. So stop in, say hi to Jay and Elijah between 3 and 6 tomorrow at Angry Fish, and go there and feel free to sample all the craft beer you can. Again, that is in Lexington. Fabrister Lane, 106 Fabrister Lane in Lexington. All right, so obviously we're talking about the new coaching hire at South Carolina, not just the head coach, Paul Mainieri, but the assistants, Monty Lee sticking around, Terry Rooney coming in from LSU, Mainieri's old bud from his days in Baton Rouge and in South Bend, and Mr. Henry from Virginia, who was by John. He's related to John Henry.
It's Hendry.
Hendry. I keep saying Henry. Hendry, who was part of the Red Sox and Marlins ownership. Hendry. That's the same Hendry.
Is it? I thought that was Henry.
You sure?
Yeah, so the guy with Boston is John Henry.
Henry.
Yeah.
I thought he was related to that guy.
No, there's a D in Hendry.
So he's not.
Close.
They're not related?
They could be related.
Maybe not. So forget all that.
But he has been a part of a very good UVA staff that has gone to 3 straight College World Series, including this weekend, which is why we don't have all the details on him yet.
Don't have the money.
Still got to finish up with them before he comes over here.
Have the money.
There is a, I'm assuming, Photoshop picture of him in a Gamecock uniform.
That's pretty funny.
So they got that up pretty quick.
That's good. And, I mean, he is, what is it, like the program, what's his title at Virginia? It's somehow program development or some kind of...
hang on. I'll get the official title.
It's not an assistant coaching role. It's kind of like that new role we see in college athletics now.
He is the director of player development and scouting.
That's it. There you go.
But it was a couple years ago that they changed the rule where you could have the third paid assistant. So he will fill that role as the third paid assistant.
Right. And he was a guy that pitched. He was drafted like 32nd round or whatever, coming out of college. Had a little bit of a pro career, then went into, college coaching.
Right.
So you got a guy from Virginia, dude from LSU, and a guy that's been here.
Yes.
That's very valuable to, this program and this fan base. Excellent staff all the way around. It feels like on paper. We'll see how it executes, but that's what it feels like on paper. All right, so again, we go back to this resource thing that's been brought up. Will South Carolina spend the money to be a big dog in the SEC? We heard Mark Etheridge, and Mark Etheridge really kind of pointed us with the NIL space. And we were saying, okay, now that you've got a coach that has shown you he can get to Omaha multiple times with multiple programs, one of 13 guys who has taken 2 teams to the College World Series, do you feel like you have hope again? Are you excited again? Now, some people are looking at Mainieri's age, or he's been away 3 years. How is he going to, evolve into this new world of college athletics? Look, those are legit question marks to bring up. The health piece is legit. But if you look at the resume, and if he is healthy and ready to rock and roll with a staff of guys who have been around the last 3 years, by the way, Tyler, and do understand the new world.
Right.
You feel like this is going to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I know we look at that, he hasn't been here for NIL and the portal being what it is. It's like, Mount Everest type of thing. I don't think it's that big of an issue or something that he can't figure out probably pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you have help. You have guys who have gone through this. So if you need to ask a question, you look at Rooney or Lee or Hendry and say, hey, help me out. What's up here, please?
Right.
So I think that the 3 concerns, Tyler, I go, 1 is health, because that is always an unknown.
Right.
2 would be the evolving to the new world. 3 is the age. just because you're 67 years old by first pitch, when I was a kid, 67, man, they were fitting diapers on you and putting you in a nursing home, right?
Right.
But as we've gotten older and medicine and technology and science has advanced so much, you see a lot of people in their mid-late 60s just trucking along fine. Look at Pete Carroll, for an example.
I saw a video of Dick Van Dyke the other day. He's 98.
98.
Spry as ever.
Yeah, I was just going to sound weird. He doesn't look 98. I saw this too. Well, Dick's still dancing around and he's 98.
That's right.
So I just think that the age thing is very fluid. It depends on the person. It just does. The NIL evolving piece, he's got help. All three concerns, why I understand why folks are concerned on all three things, I think those will be fine.
Right.
I just do. Now, the biggest one is health. That's really the one out of the three, because what if the neck starts bugging him again? What if he starts having those issues he was having that forced him out of LSU? Could that happen? It could, but you know what? Paul wouldn't be coming back if he wasn't feeling great.
No, and he had turned down the Notre Dame and Miami jobs. We don't know if it was specifically because of, his health wasn't quite there yet, but maybe he thought, okay, well, I'm not quite where I want to be. I do want to get back to coaching because that's something that he's talked about quite a bit, since retiring, and now feels like the time's finally right.
And remember, he's a Miami guy. His dad coached JUCO at Miami-Dade.
Yeah, and he was at Notre Dame before he went to LSU.
So he didn't pursue two spots where he had connections.
Right.
He took this job where he didn't have a connection except his relationship with Ray Tanner.
Right.
So I feel like some of those concerns, I get it, but the only one for me is the health. All right, here's Matt Moscona from ESPN Baton Rouge, 104.5. Again, talking about South Carolina, and before we heard the numbers of the buy-in financially by the Gamecocks yesterday, Matt Moscona, this is cut 6, about South Carolina being a tough job right now because of resources.
Yeah, Jay, I think South Carolina is a really tough job because you can get fired there. Like, there's an expectation that you win. And Mark Kingston, in the 6 years that there was postseason, he went to the postseason for the 6 years, made super regionals twice, and in many places, that's a really good run. That's not the expectation, South Carolina. You got to do better. So I'm just, if Paul Mainieri, let's say Paul's going to be 67 in August. Let's say he wants to give it a good 5-year run. Is there enough bandwidth there? Are there enough resources to help him build a team, build a roster capable of getting to Omaha and winning another championship? And that, guys, you guys would have to answer that question better than I. I'm just looking as an outsider at South Carolina, and I say there's a program that had an incredible run, but over the last decade, its spot in the pecking order among the SEC has undeniably fallen down several notches. Yeah. So I don't think it's necessarily just a win one for the Gipper speech that's going to get South Carolina back to that level. Now, Paul's a great coach, and he's in every Hall of Fame, and he's won a national title, and he is as accomplished a coach as Ray Tanner could have hired, and I think the world of Paul Mainieri. But if you expect to go to Omaha and win championships, you have to have resources to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the reality. And step one was, are you going to pony up the dough to hire a coach with a resume and a staff to assist him in getting where he wants to get? I feel like that was done yesterday.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, we'll see moving forward. Again, the NIL thing, you would hope the fan base is all lubricated and excited about this. And really by our Twitter X poll, which we'll get to, it's finally shut down. We'll give you the final numbers. You gave thumbs up, thumbs down on the hiring of Paul Mainieri on our Twitter poll. If the fans are excited, does that mean, more NIL dollars? You would think so, but again, I don't like to ask people to put, to get out their ATM card, because everybody's got their own, you got your own budget in life, you got your own bills, you make your own money. I never tell people how to spend their money.
Yeah.
Ever. So again, that's a personal choice for you as a Gamecock fan. Do you feel excited enough to start putting money in, or even the business sector? Do you feel excited enough to maybe write an NIL check or continue to write an NIL check? Does this make you, yes, I feel good about this hire and good with the new direction? We'll see. All right, speaking of our Twitter X poll and the Firehouse sub text of the hour. That's coming up next, 803-404-6100 halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head hanging here on the game. All right, time for our Firehouse Sub. Text the hour, 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler Head?
Yeah. So nameless texter weighs in and says, write passwords on a sheet of paper, take a picture, go to your photo gallery for the password list. Excuse me, that was from Byron, actually.
Byron, thank you.
Byron's trying to help us out. So I asked our engineer what I can do about this, and he told me to go through, because we have an avenue here where you can reset your password. So I'm like, okay, great. Find the link to it. I get to the page. It asked for the old password.
Of course it did.
I can't reset my password if I don't know the old password.
Nice. Ready?
I tried every conceivable combination.
Ready? You know you're in that hell now.
Yeah, I don't know what else to try, to be honest with you. I've done it all.
You know why it's funny? Because it's not me.
Yeah, I get that. I just...
If it was me. So I try not to... See, here's my thing. Big things don't bug me.
Sure.
Little teeny things can start to bug me more than any big thing. Like, if there's a disaster, I'm fine.
Totally.
It's little stupid, silly, ridiculous things that should never bug me. Like this, what's going on with you? Once I get to, like, attempt 55, I'm starting to get annoyed. I'm now like, what the bleep?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you there yet?
Yeah. Well, and that's the frustrating thing about this certain sign-on. There's no forgot your password option. You just can only reset it, which, again, means you got to know the original password to reset it.
And here's the other thing, too, is we are, just to put behind the curtain, we are a gigantic company.
Yes.
Cumulus Media is across the country, 75 bazillion radio stations. And there are radio groups, big radio groups in this country that have been hacked. I worked for one.
I worked for one as well, and that was not a fun time.
No, it's craziness because everybody flips out. Engineering and IT staffs are 24/7 for 2 or 3 days because now you're trying to save stuff because this virus is killing stuff.
Yeah, they're shutting everything down.
So Cumulus, because they never want to get hacked,
Of course.
has a crazy, multi-layered security system in place that, by the way, drives everyone crazy, like you today.
Yes.
We have things like I'll go on something and I'll go to the same place like day after day after day. Then one day it pops up, redo your password. Here comes the number to your phone. Okay, we're going to do a retinal scan. You need a urine sample. Come on back, redo your password. We might let you in.
And the blood of your firstborn child.
Exactly. And it happens like randomly out of nowhere.
Right.
Our security system, and I get why it's like this, but it's like lockdown mode.
Yep.
And you, sir, are now caught in the matrix of...
So I'm just going to keep trying.
I'll be honest with you, though. You're holding your frustration in well.
I am. I'll just going to keep trying.
Just keep trying. And we appreciate the... What was his way of doing it again? I'm going to steal this off of our
So
texter.
he said just write it on a piece of paper and take a picture, which I mean, I feel like it kind of serves the same purpose as the notes like app on your phone, which is what I have most of my passwords in. But for some reason, I guess the last time I updated it, I did not update it in there. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, we appreciate that text. Thank you very much for the help. Brandon, right? Thank you, Brandon.
Byron.
Byron. Thank you, Byron. All right, poll question of the day. We started it yesterday, and we have now are done. The final results are in. First of all, thank you. Over 5,500 people viewed our little Twitter X poll. Over 800 voted. The Gamecocks will hire Paul Mainieri as the new baseball coach. Do you approve of the hire? 86% thumbs up, 14% thumbs down. We don't typically get them like that, man. That's an overwhelming yes.
And again, I feel like from where people were on Monday when this initially came out, and a lot of people did point to the age thing as like, oh, that's a concern. I think people have come around to it a lot more in the past couple days where, and again, especially when you see what's been invested and what the staff looks like now, that there's plenty of reason to be excited about this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt. And I just, again, I understand the three concerns. The
Mm-hmm.
other things I've heard, it's like, but I get the three concerns. But I think that two of those three can be handled easily.
Right.
And the third one that to me is the one is, again, the health stuff. Could the neck thing pop up again to where it gets so debilitating that Mainieri would have to step away again?
Right.
But the other two, the evolving into this new world of college athletics, I think you've got staff that can help you with that who have been through this 3-year period of change. And two, age is, you just can't look at someone's age and put a stereotype on, well, that old person can't do it. The world's different. All right, so we'll pop in here. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Andy Staples is a very interesting exercise for the college football playoff and some matchups. We're going to kind of dig into that a bit coming up here on the Halftime Show. Halftime show, Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on the game. We go till 3. Then Jay and Elijah postgame show. By the way, tomorrow, speaking of Paul, Mainieri, press conference tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Introducing the new baseball coach at South Carolina. And obviously, we'll carry that live here on the game. That is tomorrow at 4 p.m. All right, so it's football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Very interesting. Andy Staples, 1-3, did their podcast. And one of the little things they did, well, really the opening riff on the podcast, is they took Andy's preseason top 12. It's way too early, preseason top 12. And it was top 25. And he said, okay, let's put it into, this would be the final college football playoff rankings. Let's break up some matchups and have a little fun.
Yep.
So he has the 4 automatic bids. Out of the SEC would be Georgia. Out of the Big Ten would be Ohio State. Out of the Big 12 would be Kansas State. And out of the ACC would be Florida State. Doesn't matter where they're ranked, they get the automatics, right?
Right.
Then he had these matchups for the 8 at large. This is fun. He has the group of 5 school is Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the group of 5, there's no clear cut like group of 5.
Nope.
Boise State's being looked at. Memphis, Liberty. Liberty's schedule is cake. And they were talking about on the podcast, if Liberty beats Appalachian State, they could go undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Boise State also, because they played really well second half of last year after they fired their head coach, and they won the Mountain West, and a lot of people think they're going to be really good.
Right.
So they put Boise State in here for this exercise as the number 12 seed group of 5 school.
Yep.
So then when this thing shakes out with Andy's stuff, it's ready. We'll start off with this Boise State and Alabama.
Interesting matchup.
And again, we don't know what Caleb DeBoer's Alabama's going to be, right? We don't know.
Just the thought of Boise playing in Bryant-Denny Stadium is odd, but I'm here for it.
Well, it's a shame it's not the Kellen Moore Boise State.
That is true. That was a very fun team. Or it's like the Jared Zabransky and Ian Johnson team that won the Fiesta Bowl.
Right. And then Ian Johnson, asked his cheerleader girlfriend to marry him right on the field.
Actually, Chris Myers ruined it for him. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
I'm going to let you propose to your girlfriend. Thanks, buddy.
Well, thanks for ruining that, Chris Myers, you and your hair. Appreciate you. So, Boise State and Bama, that should be a Bama W. It should be in theory.
Again, I'm not expecting too many upsets.
No. Well, let me ask you this. Outside of Tuscaloosa, it's well documented that the Alabama crowd, if it's not an Auburn game or a Georgia game or an LSU game, that crowd really doesn't get good and lathered up. But how lathered up would they be for Boise State in a college football playoff game?
I think knowing the stakes of it, and I imagined it's going to be in some kind of primetime slot in that first round.
That's a TNT game.
That's a TNT game, either that Friday night or maybe that Saturday night game. They'll be good and ready to go.
That's a nice way to put it. They will be good and ready to go. So that's one matchup. The other matchup, when Andy breaks this down, the 6-11 game would be Oregon out of the Big Ten.
I know.
Against Tennessee in Eugene. In Eugene.
You've got my attention.
Mm-hmm.
That is compelling. That is what this is for. Those kind of compelling matchups in a home state like Tennessee going to Autzen Stadium when it's probably, I don't know, it's going to be freezing up there.
It's going to be interesting. And that's a very tough place to play.
Yeah.
A very tough place to play. Oregon, historically, ever since Mike Bellotti took it over and made it an upper-level program in the Pac-12, Autzen is a very, very tough place to get a W against Oregon.
Right.
So Tennessee would travel to Eugene to take on the Oregon Ducks in a 6-11 game. 7-10 game. This one is interesting as well. You've got Ole Miss. Oh, geez. Playing. I can't read my writing. Oh, wow. We'll get back to that when I can read my writing.
Hold on. I got it right here.
Get it real quick.
You would have Ole Miss as the 7 seed or the 10 seed going to Austin to take on Texas. So an interconference matchup.
Yes. You would have Texas hosting Ole Miss. So Ole Miss is in. We've talked about Ole Miss being a playoff team.
Yep.
So Ole Miss would travel to Austin, Texas to play the Longhorns. Interesting. SEC game.
Got to get used to saying that.
I know. Now, again, that's the kind of game where you say, okay, Ole Miss, if you want to start running with the big dogs, that's a game you got to go win. Texas is not invincible at home. They haven't been. I mean, last year they were really good everywhere. But in the last, decade, 5, 6, 7, even 5 years, Texas is not like you can't go to Austin and win.
Right. Well, and, again, they did make the college football playoff last year where most people are comfortable saying Texas is back.
I'm not.
A second year in a row of high-level success, and their schedule's not super hard,
nope.
all things considered. Then I think most of us would be able to say, okay, they're actually back.
So that'll be an interesting game. Then the 8-9 game in Ann Arbor, Michigan and Notre Dame.
A little bit of a classic rivalry there.
Let's look at this. I read this in The Athletic, was it last week, a deep dive on Notre Dame. In the lineage of Notre Dame head coaches, year 3 is the sweet spot. Lou Holtz won a national championship in year 3. Dan Devine won a national championship in year 3. Eric Parsegian won a national championship in year 3. Year 3 is typically that year for Notre Dame coaches.
Yep.
You know what year our boy Freeman's in?
Year number 3.
And look, and I've started to think this about Freeman. It's a little early, but if this thing doesn't get rolling in year 3, should we start thinking this is sort of like a higher compared to our boy Dreamy Cliff? Is Marcus Freeman just dreamy and he gets a head coaching job because his looks mesmerize everyone?
There's a lot of similarities there. Now, Brian Kelly had this program at a certain level. Now, they still weren't able to break through and win in the college football playoff, but he was getting them there.
Double-digit win seasons.
Double-digit win seasons. And, again, saw an opportunity to go to LSU and compete for a national championship, decided to take that opportunity. I get it. But you hand the reins over to Marcus Freeman. A lot of hype around him, a lot of excitement. But, he's been fine. But I wouldn't say he's been anywhere near an elite level coach yet.
And I don't think the program is at Brian Kelly's level.
No.
Right now. So year 3 is going to be interesting for Freeman. Not to say he's on a hot seat or anything. He's not. But he's got to start winning double-digit games. I say this all the time. Look, you don't have to like Brian Kelly. He doesn't come off as a very likable dude.
Sure.
There's certain coaches you go, man, it'd be really cool to have a beer with that guy.
Right.
Brian Kelly's not that dude at all.
No.
Not at all.
Great football coach.
Oh, yeah. I mean, makes really weird jokes on national TV. Has some other off-the-field things that you go, that's kind of a miserable guy.
Right.
But Brian Kelly is an upper-level football coach. Everywhere he's been, his programs have won and won big.
Right.
And this idea that Marcus Freeman's going to step on in here and, what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame, no, you don't understand how hard it is to win at a high level at Notre Dame.
Yep, it is.
This is not 1983 at Notre Dame. The kids don't want to go to South Bend and freeze their tail off.
Sure.
The center of power in college football is in the Southeast. And a couple of Big Ten teams. Notre Dame is not what it was. And it doesn't have the pull it used to. So what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame was really hard to do. I don't think Marcus Freeman's Brian Kelly.
No.
We'll see. Could I be wrong? Sure. But at the end of the day, we're going to start to find out in year 3 if Marcus Freeman, is he a really good college football coach? Or is he just wow, he looks really dreamy on the front of the press guide coach?
Right.
We'll find out. But if he does make the playoff, and Notre Dame's schedule's easy, by the way. It's pretty cake schedule for Notre Dame,
right,
if you look at it. And look, I don't even know if Michigan makes the playoff.
It's tough to say. I think we kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, but with Sherrone Moore taking over, you obviously lost a lot of talent, especially on offense. I don't know what they're going to look like, to be honest with you.
Let's go back to what Michigan was before Harbaugh. What were they? Good program.
They were fine.
8-4, 9-3, every now and then win double digits, make everybody get some hope, and then they have their hopes crushed. We always looked at Michigan as a big brand, right?
Pretty much.
We haven't looked at them as a high-level program consistently in a long time.
No.
Well, who's not there anymore?
Jim Harbaugh.
So why do we think Michigan's going to continue on what they've been the last 3 years? I don't even know if they make the playoff. They've lost a lot of talent. Look at the quarterback room now. Ugh.
Well, the Big Ten obviously got tougher when you had Oregon, Washington, Southern Cal, UCLA. Maybe not UCLA to the same degree, but Michigan also plays Texas in the regular season. So that's probably a loss early on in the season.
Then you play that team from Ohio.
I play a team for Ohio, so 10-2. That's probably enough to get you in, but
I don't think they're going to be that good.
You lose another game to Wisconsin or Washington or whoever, 9-3. I don't think that's good enough.
Yeah, I think Michigan at best is a 3-loss team. So even if they make it as an 8 seed, and I don't even know if that's what's going to happen, they would host Notre Dame. And look, again, this is a matchup of two teams. Neither one might be in the college football playoff.
Right.
But Notre Dame's schedule is very college football playoff friendly.
Here's something to note here. So, again, we ran through all the teams in this plausible 12-team playoff based off of Andy Staples' top 25. You know who's really angry right now?
Penn State.
No, that'd be Oklahoma.
Oh, Oklahoma. Are they the 12?
Because they got left out in this.
Are they the 12 in Andy's thing?
But here's the funny thing. On his, they would be the 12, I believe, in his, because I'm trying to find his top 25. I was looking at his recruiting rankings. But whoever's the 12, it's important to remember.
I thought it was Penn State in the podcast.
I think it is Penn State. That's right.
They'd get kicked to the curb.
They get kicked to the curb because the group of 5 occupies that 12th spot. So even if you are 12th in the rankings, you don't get in.
You got to be in top 11.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting. They were talking about Penn State a bit on this podcast. And it would be so Penn State to be the number 12.
Sure.
Because what Penn State's become under James Franklin. Just good enough not to be good enough. That's Penn State under James Franklin.
Yeah, I also think like Wisconsin's kind of primed to fill that spot because Wisconsin. I saw this. They put out a graphic the other day of the most wins in the college football playoff era. Wisconsin has the most of any team that has never made the college football playoff. They are perennially a 9-3 to 10-2 team. Very, very solid program. And Luke Fickell up there, good coach, but like. You never look at them as like a national championship threat because they inevitably lose to the Michigans, the Ohio States, usually the Penn States as well. And it's like they've not broken through that next level. So if they're the team that gets left on the outside looking in when it's all said and done with this, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah,
in Wisconsin, we never look at them as a threat because they don't have those high-level athletes.
Right.
They play a certain system in a certain way where they can plow through a mediocre Big Ten and pile up 9 wins, sometimes, like you said, 10. But then when they go up against a for-real squad, they basically get boat raced.
Right.
So we never take them seriously. The thing about it now is they do have Phil Longo, a high-level offensive coordinator. Didn't work last year.
True.
But Longo's a high-level offensive mind. You know, Fickell obviously got Cincinnati to the college football playoff. So maybe the Wisconsin process will be different. But you're right. Even if Wisconsin wins 10 games, no one goes like this. Look out for Wisconsin.
I know.
No one does that.
Dangerous.
Ever. So it will be interesting. If Penn State gets left out of this thing, sitting at number 12, I won't lie to you. I will be highly entertained.
That might be the straw for Franklin. He's a good coach, but like they can't do enough.
And look, Penn State, there is a frenzy in that state for that football program. Across the state.
Totally.
From Philadelphia to Pittsburgh to Altoona, Erie, Harrisburg. That program is expected to be high level. And look, it's been a really good level, too, under Franklin, but not high level. Right. All right, so we'll get back into this a little bit more. Football here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head up until 3 here on the game. Then Jay and Elijah will take over at the postgame show. Paul Mainieri's presser, 4 p.m. tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be carrying that sucker live here on the game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. So that's where we're at with all that. We're doing football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. And we're kind of digging into Andy Staples. And On 3 podcast, Andy did this week. And he took his preseason top 25, his way too early preseason top 25, and broke it down into college football the college football playoff bracket. And the top 12, number 12 team was Penn State. We're talking about Penn State got punted because it's going to be the top 11 and the top group of 5 squad, which I'm totally down with that. I'm not one of these people, forget the group of 5. No, I like the idea a group of 5 team gets into this thing.
I do. I don't know if any of them are going to make any deep runs. You know, I mean, we love Cinderellas and, you know, the NCAA tournament and stuff like that, but I think football's a different animal, or you might have one that, surprises you in the first round and maybe beats a 5 or 6 at home, but I think we're going to be hard-pressed to see any of these teams make it like the semifinals.
I don't think you ever see a group of 5 team play for the national championship.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot harder.
Yeah.
To where before it's like, all right, you get in, you win one game, and then you're in the national championship. Now you got to win several games to get there.
So I just think it's fun to have one Cinderella at the dance. So don't get me wrong. She's going to be there, and she's not going to leave with the prince.
Sure.
She's just not. She's going to leave with a broken shoe, and, you know, that stagecoach turns into a pumpkin or whatever happens. I haven't seen that thing in years. I can't remember, but it's not going to be the happy ending for Cinderella.
I do think it'll be interesting to have a team in there with an absolute nothing to lose mentality, where they can just throw anything at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, you talk about Boise State that year against Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, where they just let it all hang out. Statue of Liberties,
right.
hook and ladders.
That's right.
Go for it because nobody thinks you can win. Give it a whirl.
They won.
Yes, they did. By the way, that was not a great Oklahoma team. We forget that. That was an Adrian Peterson Oklahoma team, I believe, went 8-4 in the regular season or something like that.
Yep.
They were like an 8-win, maybe 9-win top Oklahoma team. But who cares? Don't ruin a good story.
That's right.
A phenomenal underdog. By the way, I took a gig there, and they put me up at a hotel for like a couple of weeks. And they had a little hotel gym, and we've all seen the hotel gyms. All over the walls of that hotel gym was pictures from that win over Oklahoma.
Well, for the longest time, that was kind of what they were known for.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they beat Virginia Tech, they beat Georgia, they were top 5, they actually had NFL dudes.
Right.
But, yeah, for a good period of time, they were known for the Statue of Liberty to beat Oklahoma, the big hook and ladder play. I believe that was the 4th down play they pulled.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you know, Ian Johnson proposing to his girlfriend.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So Boise State would be in. We went over some of the matchups that were pretty compelling and interesting. And the 4 byes, now, according to Andy, Florida State will win the ACC, and Kansas State will win the Big 12. They brought up something that I thought is worth digging into in the podcast. The Big 12 this year looks like a mosh pit of good teams, but no great team. Now, look, could a team break away and be really good? Sure. But right now, Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma State, they're going to be at the top, you feel like?
Sure.
But none of those 3 feel like a double-digit win juggernaut.
No, and you obviously lost your top dog in Texas, and to a degree, your second top dog in Oklahoma. I know they weren't in the conference championship game last year, but I think they
won double-digit games.
They were the second best team in the Big 10, in the Big 12. So now that you have these new teams coming in, it is kind of a free-for-all to kind of see who's going to emerge as like the next big team in the Big 12.
Could it be Utah? I mean, Cam Rising is back for year 15 as a starting quarterback. Cam Rising, Utah with Cam Rising averages like 36 points a game.
Yeah, when he's on the field.
If he can stay healthy, that's a huge, gigantic, big if. Could Utah be that team? Maybe. We know old Kyle Whittingham is an excellent coach. And Utah last year obviously suffered because every week they started a different quarterback. So could Utah be that team we're not talking enough about in the Big 12 that could end up being that top dog? Let's just say the Big 12 champion wins 9 games. And they're like 15th in the rankings or something.
Yeah.
You think there's going to be some belly aching?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I root for chaos, so that'd be fun for me.
Sure.
I would enjoy that. But that's the 4 autos. And then you look at Kansas State would be the number 4, right, out of that.
Yes.
So if you look at this deal here, let's see the what? 5, 12, so it would be the 7, 10 would go to the 4th seed, the 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you had Texas going to Kansas State, or Kansas State in a neutral field? And Texas is the higher seed.
Bit of a throwback game.
Maybe with a better record. That would drive people crazy, right?
For sure.
I'm really rooting for that. I like Cass. Cass is fun. But just a nice little interesting look at what Andy Staples had in his matchups. And look, there are some people who hate this. I love it. I love a 12-team playoff. Think about a 12-team playoff last year. Undefeated Florida State's in. 1 loss Georgia, who was undefeated all year, is in. Honestly, I mean, if you asked me, in a 12-team playoff last year, Georgia wins the national championship.
Probably so. And again, I think last year, in more ways than one, kind of exposed the flaws of a 14 playoff where, again, Florida State gets left out because their quarterback got hurt despite winning every single game. And then Georgia goes from 1st to 6th after losing a 3-point game to Alabama. It's like, well, you're not actually the 6th best team in the country, but we also can't put you in the top 4. So it took 10 years, but the system finally kind of blew up in its face.
They ducked and dodged for a long time, right?
Well, there was a lot of years where, like the first year, you had the controversy of Baylor and TCU, but because they were deemed co-champions, even though I think Baylor won the regular season game against them, but the Big 12 won co-champions. And the playoff committee is like, all right, well, you're just not going to get in then.
Did you get neither?
Exactly. But for the most part, I mean, like Penn State got left out as the Big Ten champ, but they had 2 losses. For the most part, we went kind of controversy-free a lot of years.
They've dodged the bullet. They really have, until last year.
Yeah.
And last year, finally said, hey, this thing can be an absolute dumpster fire. And it was last year. Yeah, 12-team playoff would have been very, very cool to watch in 2023. So we'll have one now. And the matchups are going to be, I just think it's going to be great. I'm really going to enjoy this. Now, would I like to see, I'm like Jay on this. I would like to see, if you got the bye, the first game would be home field for you. But I get it. It's all about money. Everything is about money. And about corporate partnerships and all that mess.
I think we're eventually going to get to the point, because we're already talking about going to 14 and 16 and all this kind of stuff, where eventually you're going to be able to play home games. Because I think those top 4 seeds are going to look at what the 5 through 9 seeds get, or the 8 seeds get, saying, man, that generated a lot of revenue, was good for local business, good for the school. We want to do that.
And I agree with you, but the only pushback will be, there's a reason they do it the way they do now, and that's because of the corporate money, how much money they're getting from the bowl folks and all that other stuff. And obviously, in their mind, that money trumps the 4-game scenario at a home field.
It does. And that's the funny thing, is we circumvent everything to fit the bowl structure, even though the bowl structure doesn't really work anymore with what we're trying to do. But because it's traditional, a lot of money tied up in it, a lot of people tied up in it, we got to keep doing it this way. I feel some type of way about teams playing 2 bowl games. Maybe that's a minor thing, but that to me is weird.
Well, how about this? You have to travel to 2 bowl games as a fan and spend the money.
In like 10 days.
Yeah.
In addition, if you win that, you go in the national championship. Have fun on crisscrossing the country for 2 weeks.
I hope you're saving up some money. And then, oh, by the way, you're giving money to NIL.
Right.
All right, so that's a fun little look at what Andy Staples had going on with his college football playoff matchup scenarios. We'll come back here on the halftime show. It's football in the 1 o'clock hour here on the game. Well, no drama with the Jets as we turn to the NFL. We will get to that next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, till 3 on the game. What we're talking about is football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Couple things real fast. We're going to get to this NFL story with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, which is, again, highly entertaining to me. It just is. I get a kick out of, and I've said this about Aaron Rodgers. It's like, look, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, just no doubt. Not, to me, not an argument. He's one of the best quarterbacks of his generation, of his era. But the more, just me, the more I hear Aaron Rodgers talk, the more it's like, Aaron, maybe talk less, man. It just, again, believe what you believe and think what you want to think. And if you want to talk about it, fine. But you got a bigger job, and your bigger job is, being the quarterback / leader of a team that needs you to be a leader. Because, again, this is a team that haven't won jack in a long time. You have. You've been in the playoffs a ton. I've lost count how many times the Packers in the NFC Championship game. Got to a Super Bowl, won it. You can lead the way, man. They need you to lead the way. And we're going to get into this conversation about Aaron Rodgers in a minute. But first, GamecockCentral.com. Interesting post from Mike Uva, our buddy Mike, digging into, and they're digging into all the different position groups with the South Carolina football team. And Mike jumped into the offensive line, which is, along with Lennar Sellers, the two biggest stories for me about what will happen with Gamecock football in 2024. And Mike just kind of goes through the offensive line room. There's so many different combinations, possible combinations here. And how you could plug in this and plug in that. And Mike went into his week 1 prediction of the starting offensive line. And he has Tree at left tackle, Sean Lee at guard, Simpkins the transfer at center, Ball at right guard, and Kason Henry at right tackle. That would leave Josiah Thompson, Marquis Anderson on the outside looking in right now. Ja'Kai Moore as well. Torselli Simpkins is interesting, starting 34 games in North Carolina Central. I mean, MEAC Lineman of the Year in 2023. I mean, he was a guy at the FCS level that was excellent. And there's been a lot of talk about how good he has been transitioning to South Carolina since he showed up on campus. And could Simpkins start at center? Sure. Started 12 games at center last year. So could he slide that spot? And then all of a sudden Rashawn Lee slides over to guard? That could happen too. He's played guard before. Ball is interesting, and so is Tree. Both started last year when they shouldn't have. You know that. And, they had their good moments, but they also had moments where they struggled a ton. How much will that experience help them moving forward, and could they snag these starting spots? In a perfect world, Josiah Thompson sits and watches. It's very tough to play left tackle in the SEC. It's tough to be a starting offensive lineman in the SEC as a freshman. But it's really tough to play left tackle as a freshman in the SEC. We've seen 5-star left tackles for other programs go out there and struggle because you ain't in high school anymore. So in a perfect world, this works. Tree gets run at left tackle. Thompson gets to learn and then gets ready for his turn. So we'll see with Tree and Ball. Has that experience last year where they played when they shouldn't have. And you're talking about trial by fire. Shit. Man. But did that trial by fire help them develop into what everyone hopes are solid, at the very least, SEC offensive linemen for this upcoming season? We'll see. Marquis Anderson's another one. Very much a question mark because Anderson was hurt. Missed all last year. What can he bring to the table? So that was Mike's prediction for week 1. Before. Now here's Mike's new prediction for week 1. Moving Lee over to center, taking Simpkins out. And then at left guard, Mike slides Kamar Bell, coming in from Florida Atlantic. You know, Bell spent a couple seasons at Auburn first. He's got experience at guard and center. So Mike now slides Bell in that spot at guard and moves Lee over to center. And there was a lot of good talk about Bell, too, in the, in the spring and how he had transitioned. So I guess the point here is that you got a lot of options. And you just hope with all these options that this offensive line can find 5. That, work is what they say, one set of eyes, can be cohesive, can hold their own in the run and the pass game. There's a lot of different guys here. A lot of potential, a lot of high ceiling, a lot of experience. There's a lot of Alatas. It's just you hope it turns into a really good offensive line. So we shall see. And we didn't even talk about Aaron Parks, the transfer from Oklahoma, who's got a year left of eligibility. There's a lot of different ways this thing could go. And then, like I said, we kind of pushed Ja'Kai Moore off to the side. And Moore, been around a long time. This is season 6. So a lot of different options. That's Mike Uva. That's his starting 5, his updated starting 5 in the offensive line. All right, so Aaron Rodgers was all in on voluntary minicamps.
Yes, he was.
To be fair to Aaron Rodgers. But now we get to the mandatory camp where everybody's got to be there, and Aaron is unexcused but not there. Robert Saleh says he talked about this with Aaron. There's a place Aaron had to be that I haven't seen what it is yet. It's none of my business. But Robert Saleh says, we talked about it. There's a place Aaron just had to go to, and so he's not here. I said this yesterday, Tyler, that at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers not at a mandatory minicamp in June doesn't mean anything toward your one-loss record. It just doesn't.
No.
But you're not there for mandatory. Even if you miss a day, the talk is, you're supposed to be a leader, dude. You're supposed to be the guy that's going to turn this franchise back into winning. Remember, you're putting your rep on the line. You're trying to tell all your haters and doubters that your best days aren't behind you. You're going to be Tom Brady 2.0. Blah, 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 blah. Then you show up at mandatory. Unless whatever you're doing involves your family or a close friend and it's something you have to do for your life.
Doesn't have family.
Well, he doesn't admit it.
It's true.
But I guess my point is, in another situation, this wouldn't matter.
No,
at
it
all.
wouldn't. It's more of the principle of everything. Mm-hmm. And again, if Aaron Rodgers wasn't so controversial and polarizing away from the football field, this wouldn't really be a conversation. But the fact that, he exists in Aaron Rodgers' world sometimes in his own head, this could be an issue. But again, like you said, does him missing this day mean that the Jets are going to lose 3 more games because of it? Not necessarily. But again, it's more the principle and setting that example for your team and for your care level of this organization.
And here's Saleh, his quote. Spoke to Aaron over the weekend. Appreciate the dialogue. He's in a really good place mentally, working his tail off like we already know, but he's choosing to sit this one out. Unexcused. Again, at the end of the day, if the Jets go out, make the playoffs, and Rodgers has a fantastic season, this is not even a conversation.
It's not.
But if they struggle, and Aaron struggles, then you know what you're going to hear? Well, dude, you showed us that you weren't all in starting with mandatory minicamp.
By the way, what media market is he in now?
1.
Yeah, and they've been known to be very kind and very forgiving.
Oh, yes. So, in the big picture, this means nothing. In the small picture, it is kind of a,
Right.
A little bit of a head scratcher. Firehouse sub text the hour coming up, 803-404-6100. It is the halftime show. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. I can't even talk on the game. Time to check the old Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What you got there, my man?
Yeah, so Jeff weighs in and says, Penn State getting left out at 12 would be entertaining, but not on the level of FSU getting left out again. I don't think there's enough popcorn for that show. That is the thing with this new 12-team playoff. Like, for anybody that gets left out, there's going to be enough data points against you to where you're not going to have as strong of a foundation to stand on. Where, again, Florida State beat everybody, and they won the SEC championship. Like, they had a very good argument for why they should have been in the top 4. If you're a 9-3 Penn State team and you lose to Ohio State, Michigan, and Wisconsin, well, we should be in. Should you?
It's like you're on the bubble for the NCAA tournament now.
Right.
What'd you do to put yourself on the bubble in a 68-team tournament?
Yeah. You went 10-10 against Quad 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. 10 wins are good. What are those 10 losses, though?
Right. You had that loss to the Montana School of Bartending.
Sure.
I mean, come on. I tell you, the one that Andy and his guys brought up on the podcast was, what if Tennessee was number 12?
Ooh.
Because they're number 11 in this exercise.
Right.
And they started laughing. They're like, oh, Vol fans they would take that real easy.
Oh, totally.
Vol Twitter would be very, very, very understanding.
Vol Twitter is a very kind, compassionate, understanding place.
Yes. Absolutely. So, yeah, that one would be funny because watching the reaction of volunteer fans would be hilarious. But yeah, to the texter's point, what happened last year, oh, that was entertaining. I didn't agree with it. I thought Florida State got hosed. But was all that entertaining? Yeah.
For sure. No,
absolutely.
How much mileage did we get out of that?
A ton. You know, I always thought about that. And again, you'd have to go back and kick that dead horse again, but you brought it up. Florida State went undefeated and lost their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And still went undefeated and won the ACC championship.
Yeah, I know. And it's...
Really, with almost without a quarterback.
And it's crazy because, and I get it, the committee changed year to year, and it wasn't the same people that were there 5-6 years ago, but, I remember when Clemson went on the road on a Friday night and lost to Syracuse after Deshaun Watson went down. Kelly Bryant stepped in at quarterback. They pretty much ignored that loss because, you didn't have your starting quarterback. You lost that game. We'll give you the mulligan on that one because you won the rest of your games. And guess what? They went on to win the national championship. So it's like, and again, it's different people in the room, but like the way the perception flipped a couple years later, it's like, well, you lost your quarterback and you still won all your games, but it's not good enough.
Yeah, instead of that being like, wow,
yeah,
that's seriously impressive.
Right.
It was held against Florida State because, again, the think system kicked in.
Sure.
Well, with a backup quarterback, could they beat this team, and this team? We think they can't.
We exist too much in that mindset. And, I enjoyed the 14 playoff for what it was, but I do appreciate the fact that we're not going to have that kind of controversy again.
No, because whoever finishes 12th, sorry, you finished 12th.
And here's the thing. I prefer to just take 1 through 12 and say that's your playoff? Yes. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to incentivize conference championship games and wants to win your conference because, let's face it, if you went 1 to 12, conference championship games wouldn't mean jack
It wouldn't mean
squat.
anything. And really, they haven't meant a whole lot unless we wanted them to. Again, to the think system and the agenda, because we've seen an SEC team that didn't win the SEC championship game playing the college football playoff.
Yes.
So,
well,
how much do you value a conference championship game?
Also saw an SEC team that didn't make it to the SEC championship game, play it for a BCS national championship.
Exactly.
So that's kind of thing where things started to diminish a little bit.
So if you're going to try to make the conference championship game matter, which I think it should if you're going to play it, then give the automatic bye.
Which that's another thing too, with all the money that's tied up in Atlanta and Dallas and all these other places. These conference championship games, they're not going away.
No,
you have to find a way to make them exist and make them worth something. And again, do they lose a little bit of value here? Yes, you do get the bye for winning, but in most cases, both teams in the conference championship game are probably going to be in the playoff anyway.
Right. So all you're really fighting for is a bye.
And my question is, okay, let's say maybe this wouldn't happen necessarily in the SEC because we assumed a handful of SEC teams would get in. Let's say you have two teams in the Big Ten, one's at 8, one's at 11. They play each other in the Big 12 championship game. If 11 loses, if a number 12 is another Big 12 team that did make the conference championship game, do they hop them? Or do you keep them at 11 saying, well, you made the conference championship game, you lost to a higher seed? Like, that's what I'm
Ready? You should never be penalized to make the conference championship game.
You shouldn't be.
No, but you know how this goes.
I do.
We've seen it. That's a really good scenario, by the way.
It could happen.
That's an excellent scenario.
Now, again, TCU lost their conference championship game, didn't move. So that's one precedent.
Yep. That's another precedent.
I don't know.
So, This is going to be fun, but it isn't to the level of the Florida State hosing. So, Texter,
No.
you're correct.
Yes.
Nothing will now reach that level
Right.
at all. But yeah, I thought it was funny with the putting Tennessee in that 12 hole and having them get knocked out for the Group of 5 school.
Right.
They were laughing on the Andy Staples podcast. Oh yeah, Tennessee's Twitter would be so understanding.
Vol fan Andy might hurt somebody.
All right, it's football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. What's trending at 2, including the saga of Joey Chestnut. That's coming up, halftime show in the game. Halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head till 3 here on the game. Then Jay and Elijah will take over with a post-game show. Okay, change of schedules. Life is fluid.
Yes, it is.
And so is our schedule. All right, tomorrow, the Mainieri press conference is at 4. Also, we might have some other opportunities to snag some other folks from South Carolina tomorrow as well. So we are now going to do the post-game show from the press conference at South Carolina. We'll carry the presser live. We were efforting to have Paul Mainieri on with Jay and Elijah at some point in that block of time. Hopefully before. We'll see. We're working on it. And, we tackle Ray Tanner and drag him on the mic too. Who knows? We'll have Elijah do that. He's bigger than Jay. So we're going to do the post-game show live from South Carolina tomorrow. The Paul Mainieri press conference live at 4. Friday at Angry Fish, 3 to 6.
Okay. By the way, Elijah tackles Ray Tanner. That's the last press conference they're going to invite us to.
You think?
Probably.
You think that would be a negative? Wouldn't be a good thing, good look for us?
We might lose some connections. Wait, aren't those people that tackled Ray? Yeah.
They're not allowed in.
We're not going to talk to them.
Yeah, that tall guy in the sandals and ponytail. Not allowed here anymore.
Just get a wanted poster of him across all the athletics facilities. Don't let this guy in.
Just stop his car as he's driving anywhere near the facility.
Well, here's the thing, though. If he cut his hair and shaved his beard, he's a whole new person.
Wouldn't it be funny to see him without the beard and the hair?
Listen, he showed me a picture of him in high school when he was playing like basketball. That's not you. That's a different person.
I guess short hair and no facial hair.
Exactly. It was
I've
weird.
got to see that.
It was bizarre.
Now, is it as weird as when you see me with hair?
That was definitely jarring.
Jarring?
But it's one of those things that, like, I've only known you looking like this. I've only known him looking like this. Like, I have no perception of what his face looks like, how it's shaped.
Right.
So when people lose their beard, it's like, oh, like, that's what your jaw looks like. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's bizarre.
Was his jarring?
It was. I have him show you a picture.
I am. I'm
for the next break.
Break that out for me. All right. We should take him on social media, put the picture of him now and the picture of himself in high school and put them together and put it out there so people can see the difference.
Right.
All right. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Obviously, what's trending here. Paul Mainieri, the new baseball coach at South Carolina, a staff of Terry Rooney, Monty Lee, John Hendry. I'm reading so many things. I was getting Hendry and Henry mixed up with John Henry, who was with the Marlins and the Red Sox. But Hendry is related to someone that was, I think his dad was in professional baseball somehow.
Hold on, I have that.
I think
for
it's
you in
his
just
father.
A second. That is correct, but he's not related.
He's not he's not the John Henry
of the Fenway Sports Group.
No. Who, by the way, is interesting. As successful as John Henry was with the Fenway Sports Group, is how not successful they were with the Marlins.
Hendry is the son of John Hendry, longtime executive and current special assistant to New York Yankees general manager Brian Cashman.
All right, there you go. You got to change your name.
Which it's funny that it's the Yankees instead of the Red Sox.
Yes. And by the way, we have to do a name change just to make this easier for everybody. It's too close to John Henry.
It is.
Just saying.
We'll try and get him on and be like, all right, we got to call you something else.
Yeah, we got to do something about this whole thing. It just makes everything.
Maybe he has a nickname like Skippy or something. We just call him that.
Well, baseball, you have those weird nicknames. Where you used to.
Sure.
They don't have those nicknames like they used to in baseball back in like the 30s. You ever look at those names, those guys in the 30s? Rawhide, Moonshine, whatever.
Here comes old Leatherhands out to pitch.
I just love that.
Throws the ball 40 miles an hour. It's the fastest fastball on the face of the earth.
Or Hoss. That was the nickname Hoss. I had an uncle that called everybody Hoss. Couldn't remember everybody's name.
Yeah.
Hey, Hoss.
What's
up, Hoss?
Get a little cop out.
Oh, yeah. All right, so obviously we've talked about that a lot today. The more I look at this myself personally, again, everybody's got their own opinion, I really like the configuration of what we have here. Now, just let's hope it works, because on paper, it looks really good. You got a guy that's been to Omaha, 2 different programs, again, one of 13 coaches ever to do that. You've got a really good coaching staff of assistants who we know two guys can seriously recruit.
Right.
You know, Rooney was a pitching coach when LSU was really good. Obviously, Monty Lee is a baseball guy, heck of a recruiter. So you really did well there. And Hendry has been on the staff at Virginia, and all they do is go to the College World Series.
That's right.
This feels like a really good deal. And I had a couple people ask me about the Landon Powell thing. Obviously, Landon Powell's not on the staff. Why? I don't know. Did they not even ask? Did they check? And he said, no, you know, I'm good as a head coach. I don't want to be an assistant. There's one thing that we all talk about with Landon Powell, because I understand the pull of getting Landon Powell on the staff, because then you say, okay, now the one knock against him, he's now going to have SEC experience as an assistant coach.
Right.
I mean, is Landon Powell just happy?
It's very possible.
He's been there, what, 10 years?
Yeah, and accomplished a whole heck of a lot.
He's very accomplished at Division II. Maybe he's happy. Maybe he likes where he's at. Maybe he don't want to leave.
And, you know, it would be, we talked about last week, it would be such a sizable jump to go from that to coaching in the SEC. By the way, the toughest the SEC's ever been. You risk hurting your reputation there. Because, again, great player. People loved him as a player, which is why his name gets brought up. But if, and I'm not saying he couldn't be the coach at South Carolina one day down the road, but I think you would much rather see, all right, we'll take that Division II job, maybe find your way to a mid-major, maybe work your way into a lower-level Power 5 program, and then down the line, if there's an opportunity to come back to South Carolina, maybe then. But you really need to prove yourself before you get to this point.
You know what's great? Hiring one of your former icons.
Yeah.
You know what's bad?
When they end up having to be fired.
Firing one. Ask Michigan about Juwan Howard. Ask Georgetown about Patrick Ewing.
Well,
I mean, we've seen iconic players, pro and college, try to sit in those spots, and what happens sometimes.
And I understand people wanting somebody that they have that connection with, that has represented their school in the past, but that's not always the best fit.
Right.
And again, we brought this up last week. If he didn't play for South Carolina, would we have even entertained his name as an option? No. There's plenty of coaches at Division II, Division III, NAIA that are killing it that you would have never considered, but just because of his connection to South Carolina, you're saying, well, he should be the guy. Let's pump the brakes on that.
And like, I get it, because we all love the former great players, the players that played during the great eras.
Sure.
We all love those people, and we all want them to be the coach, the manager, whatever.
Sure.
Because we figure, well, heck, if they played during that great time, they can coach. Or if they're coaching somewhere else and doing great at some other level or whatever, it's like you get in your head, well, they can do it here because and you hear this a lot. It's not just South Carolina, everywhere. We saw this in Michigan. We want someone who knows us, who is one of us, who understands our culture, understands our community, our people. I totally understand that.
Sure.
Jim Harbaugh didn't win in Michigan because he's a Michigan man.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh won in Michigan because he's one of the best head coaches in football.
And for every Jim Harbaugh, there's Scott Frost.
Absolutely.
Which, again, that looked like the perfect opportunity.
Didn't that look like a home run?
It absolutely did.
It really did.
It did not work out.
And guess what? It was strike three looking.
Best 4-8 team of all time, though.
That's what we kept hearing.
That's right.
So, I get that pull, and yeah, a lot of people did this. Well, this is a good time to put Landon Powell on the staff, and yeah, I agree with that one. Absolutely,
because then that's a stepping stone.
Makes perfect sense.
Because you come here as an assistant coach for a couple years, then maybe you get that opportunity at a MAC school or at a Mountain West school or somewhere like that. Okay, now you're a head coach at the Division I level. Do good there, then you can move up to another, maybe a AAC or something like that, and eventually find your way to the SEC. But going from D2 straight to the, going from not the basement to the penthouse, but one of the middle floors all the way to the penthouse, that's a tough ask.
That's a long climb.
That is.
And I think, I was thinking about this earlier today when I've had multiple people talk about Landon Powell. And, oh, man, I love this staff, but it'd be really cool if he was part of it. And I said, I agree. And then I started to think, well, and I Googled it and didn't see anything. Maybe I just couldn't find it. Maybe Landon Powell just likes where he's at.
It's very possible.
Maybe he just enjoys being where he's at. Maybe not. I don't know. Again, maybe South Carolina didn't ask. Or if they asked, he said, maybe the timing's not right for me. Or maybe I don't want to be an assistant. I just want to be a head coach. And I'll move myself up as a head coach to whatever. But then I thought to myself, well, maybe he just is digging his life.
We lose sight of the human element of coaches so often. And I think this is one of those scenarios where we just think, well, why wouldn't you want to come here? Why wouldn't you want to coach in the SEC? And like you said, I mean, look at Cliff Godwin, who's been, looked at for many jobs around the country over the years. He likes it in Greenville, North Carolina. He was an alumni there, played there. Like, he just wants to stay there. And like that's his thing. That's fine. And he's getting paid a good salary. Team's successful. They're not going to run him out of town anytime soon. I don't know. His kids like the schools. His wife likes being there. Stay.
Well, the thing is, and we always do this because the money, it's monopoly money, right?
Sure.
He's only making $600,000.
You make it $600,000?
always, and I'll try to catch myself from saying that.
Right.
Because most people in this country would kill to make only $600,000 when the average median income in this country is what, 40s, 50s, whatever it is.
He's probably got a nice house.
Yeah.
He's got a nice car. He's got money to accommodate all of his needs. I'm sure he looks around and is like, I'm good with this.
You think he's like, pinching pennies to go to Zesto?
No,
on a Friday night?
I don't think so. I think he can afford that. If he took a group to Halls, I think he could foot that bill.
Yeah. So when we say, and I think I even slipped saying it once or twice, he's only making $600,000. Then I go, yeah, because that's such chump change, $600,000 a year.
But again, like money, when we're talking about coaches and money in professional sports, it almost doesn't have value in a way. You know what I mean? Because we just throw numbers out there all the time. Like, pay him this, pay him that. Oh, he's only making this. He's only making that. Oh, that contract, he should get this much more in his next contract. Like, we just become so numb to what money actually is. It's funny.
Because the market is the market, right? And we're talking about this like only $600,000 in the market of where coaches are making $1 and $2 million.
Right.
$600,000 is low compared to, Tim Corbin at Vanderbilt, or even right now, Paul Mainieri at South Carolina.
Right.
Because that's half of what Mainieri is getting.
Right.
But always in the big picture, a guy pulling $600,000 a year is pretty good loot. Just saying.
I'd like to make that.
I mean, it's not radio money like we're getting.
No, unfortunately not. And I'm afraid Paul Mainieri is going to ask to work for us tomorrow because he's only making $1.3 million.
I mean, I wouldn't even get out of bed for 1.3. Just saying. All right, so Jay Johnson, the current head coach at LSU, he commented yesterday about Paul Mainieri taking the South Carolina gig. Let's cut 17, Tyler. Let's get that one real quick.
He called me yesterday, and I was just congratulated him. And if he's earned the right at this time in his life to choose what he wants to do. He's a great coach, Hall of Fame coach, and been very good to me, in my time here. So happy for him, and he's a competitive guy. He's got that fire. He'll put good people around him, smart, and they'll probably be really good. That's probably what will happen. And so, I'm happy for Coach. If that's what he wants to do.
Man, I hope Jay's right on all that stuff.
Right. Well, and it seems like the people in Baton Rouge, they like Coach Mainieri. They'll pull for him again as long as they're not playing LSU. Like, I think people down there want to see him succeed because of what he did for their program, what he meant to the school down there. And obviously he was the one right before Coach Johnson, and Coach Johnson has obviously led them to national championship himself. So program's still in a really good place. So I think he's got a lot of support from even back home in Baton Rouge as well.
Yeah, look, everything that we've heard, I mean, again, Matt Moscona covered Mainieri right from the beginning, and Matt had nothing but great stuff to say about Paul Mainieri. I remember when this first started happening, because we had Mark Etheridge on yesterday, and we had already planned to have Etheridge on yesterday before all this news popped on Monday.
Right.
And texted Etheridge for fun and said, well, I guess we have nothing to talk about tomorrow. And he was like, you're going to like this guy. He's very media friendly and a good dude. All right, we'll get back in here and continue on what's trending at 2 right here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We're going to get to a couple of the other stories in the world of sports. First, we will focus a little bit more on Paul Mainieri, the new head baseball coach of South Carolina. Presser 4 o'clock tomorrow.
Yep.
We'll be carrying it live here on the game. Also, the post-game show will be live at the presser. Not like on while the presser is going, but we'll be live at the over at South Carolina.
No, they're going to offer commentary in between questions.
Sort of like the Mannings do, the Manning
That's right.
cast.
That's right.
It's going to be the post-game cast.
And
look at that
Elijah
suit.
might tackle Ray Tanner.
Might tackle Ray Tanner and bring him on the mic. And then there could be security involved, and there'll be tasing, and it could be crazy. It could be crazy.
Good time.
So that'll be tomorrow. Now, the Angry Fish live, our live show at Angry Fish has moved to Friday, 3 to 6 in Lexington. So live at South Carolina tomorrow for the Paul Mainieri presser, and Friday at Angry Fish in Lexington. So that's the new schedule we're going to be running with here on the game. All right, speaking of Mainieri, one of the interesting, really good hires, Terry Rooney, will be the pitching coach at South Carolina, was a recruiting coordinator recently at LSU. Last year, LSU had the number 7 recruiting class. Right now for 2025, it's a number 1 recruiting class. Rooney's really good. Was a head coach for 3-4 seasons at Central Florida, made the NCAAs a couple of times.
Yep.
But he's really made his way as an assistant and as a recruiting coordinator here at LSU.
Yep.
Or at LSU. So the Rooney get, I think, is a fantastic hire. Here's what Matt Moscona from 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge said about Terry Rooney. Cut 7, Tyler.
Yeah, so that's a great hire, and I think especially for Paul. So Terry was with Paul Mainieri, Notre Dame. Paul brought him here to Baton Rouge. He was here for 07-08 as the pitching coach, and then got the head coaching job at Central Florida. Was there for a while, kind of moved around college baseball a little bit, and last year Jay Johnson hired Terry Rooney as a director of player development, basically an off-field role, with the idea that when inevitably an on-field coaching staff spot opened up, Terry Rooney would move into that spot. Really good pitching coach and probably an even better recruiter, very personable guy. Y'all are going to love him. But that's what Paul needs. Paul, I think, even by his own admission, isn't the guy that's going to go to all the showcase events in Florida and Atlanta and pound the pavement recruiting. So you have to have that guy on staff. I mean, that guy, when at the end of his tenure at LSU, was Nolan Cain, who's now at Texas A&M, who's helped Jim Schlossnagle build that roster that's going to compete for a College World Series. So Terry is great in that role. He's a great recruiter. He's a great coach. And I have no doubt that he and Paul will complement each other very well. They've worked together and coached together and known each other a long time. And those guys can and will win together. So from an LSU perspective, that hurts a lot. Plucking Terry Rooney out of Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Terry Rooney, it's a good hire. It really is. And, like Matt was saying, he was a recruiting coordinator, and if a spot opened up on the staff, it was going to be Rooney's gig.
And I think it's important to note that, he was valuable enough to Mainieri when he was at Notre Dame to want to bring him to LSU with him when he made the move. So now when he's getting back into coaching again, he wants him as part of his staff. So clearly there's a lot of trust there, a lot of understanding each other. And again, with, Mainieri maybe not being the guy that's going to hit the recruiting trail as hard. Not that he's not going to, but seems like that's Terry Rooney's kind of wheelhouse, which would be good.
With Rooney and Monty Lee,
yeah,
he's going to be okay with the recruiting.
And look, I don't think it's not worth anything. I think it's worth noting you've got 3 former head coaches running your team now.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, Monty Lee and Terry Rooney didn't have the most success, but they still had the opportunity to run and manage teams over the course of several years, and that's valuable in the way that they view the game, the way they understand things, more than somebody that's just a regular assistant coach would.
And, when we talk about resources and investing and everything else, and Jay and I talked about this for a minute yesterday, Paul Mainieri is not coming to South Carolina if he didn't get some assurances that this program is going to be all in.
Right.
This guy's going, he was going to work again. And if there weren't assurances that South Carolina was going to do what needed to be done to be once again a high-level program, Mainieri would have passed on this and waited for the next opportunity, because the next opportunity was coming.
Oh, for sure.
He could have been the Miami head coach.
Yeah, and
turned that down last year.
There was interest seemingly every year since he's been retired. There's been belief that he can come back, and he's expressed interest in wanting to do that. So there's something about this job, and yes, the money is really good, obviously, but something about this job enticing enough for him to want to take on, bring in somebody he trusts in Terry Rooney, keep Monty Lee on staff because he knows the value that he brings to this program as well. And, now we got to go out of the field and see what happens.
Okay, let's selfishly be Paul Mainieri for a minute. All right, South Carolina used to be one of the best programs in college baseball.
Yes.
The best program 2 straight years.
Yep.
Played for the championship the 3rd year. You know what can be done here. June Raines got to the College World Series. Bobby Richardson got to the College World Series. This wasn't just Ray Tanner.
Right.
This has a lineage of excellent baseball. It's not at that point right now. If you're Paul Mainieri and you know how good you are, and you know what you've done at Notre Dame and LSU, how about this for why you come here? Wow. Used to be a giant, not a giant anymore. You know who can make it a giant again? Me.
Well, and it's not like this program is in the dumps. You know what I mean? Like, you're not Missouri. You're in the middle ground of the SEC, which isn't terrible, but you're not at the top either. So the climb back to the top is not insurmountable, and it's not going to take a complete overhaul. Like, you're inheriting a good to decent program.
Yeah. Supers 2 years ago.
You just got to elevate it back to where it needs to be.
So I think that's another pull of this job is, wow, I know what I can do, and I know I can do it there, but then you say to Ray, go, look, Coach, I love you. I need buy-in. We got to spend the money if we want to be upper level.
Right.
And obviously, Paul Mainieri liked the answers he got to his questions, and guess who's going to have a press conference tomorrow at 4 o'clock?
Paul Mainieri.
All right, real quick, one other one. Sad note, Jerry West, the logo. One of the greatest NBA, just forget player, NBA all-star every season of his career. Top 5 MVP 6, 7, 8, 9 times, whatever, in the voting. Great player. What his numbers would have been in a three-point era would have been sick. Jerry West could make some shots, man, from distance. Jerry West also is an executive. Look what he did with the Lakers, the Grizzlies. We forget something. He was a dude that helped get this thing started in Golden State.
Yep.
Jerry West was its executive, player, the assistant coach to Pat Riley in a very awkward press conference a long time ago when he was called a co-head coach. Jerry West is a lot of what the NBA is. The logo.
Yes. I mean, literally, he is
the logo.
The emblem of the league.
Yes.
Yeah, the sad news on that front. The only guy to win the finals MVP on the losing team. Is that correct?
Yep. 89 years old, Jerry West passes away. And I was watching, ironically, I went down a 30 for 30 rabbit hole on Sunday.
Oh, those are great, right?
And I watched the Celtic-Laker, part 1 of the Celtic-Laker 30 for 30. That was multiple parts.
Yeah.
And remember, Jerry West Lakers lost every time to the Celtics.
Right.
During the great Celtic dynasties. And the last one, when they lost to the Celtics, late 60s, it was the last year of the great dynasty with Bill Russell. And Jerry West and the Lakers, they were the better team on paper. The Celtics were getting old. The Lakers went out and got Wilt Chamberlain.
Right.
There's a game 7. Everything is close. Chamberlain gets hurt, comes out of the game. Butch Van Bredikoff wouldn't put Chamberlain back in the game because he was so mad that Chamberlain came out of the game with an injury. And the Lakers lost game 7 on their home court to the Celtic team. And Jerry West, they interviewed, he said, I was devastated. He goes, I just went home. I couldn't move. He goes, and just hearing Jerry West talk about it, it was like, man, I'm bummed for you. But he was that kind of competitor. He was a great player, great executive. This guy was the NBA in a lot of ways. Over the years and years and decades. So Jerry West passing away at age 89. All right, the greatest day in the history of the world. That's next. Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, glad you could be hanging here on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford Tyler had greatest day in the history of the world, which is June 12th. This day last year, Tyler, the Denver Nuggets beat the Miami Heat to win the NBA championship. In a series, a lot of people went, over.
Well, mainly that was Jokic going in that.
Yes.
I got to get back home to the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great and all. I've got a barn.
No, I can't go to the parade. I got horses.
You don't understand. There's cows to milk on the farm. So Nuggets won. Hey, again, the NBA TV ratings they're up a bit this year, but still, it's you know what? It's interesting. Since LeBron and the Cavs and Steph and the Warriors, these numbers have been going down.
Well, the NFL, the NBA is a star-driven league. And we talk about it all the time. The things that happen off the court in the NBA are a lot of the times more entertaining than the actual games on the court.
Yeah.
And if it's involving LeBron or Steph or James Harden or these big brand names that you know, people can have an interest. So the casual sports fan, like, oh, hey, LeBron's playing the finals. I'll check that out. But they look at this, and sure, people have heard of Luka. But it doesn't have quite that same appeal of like, maybe I'll sit this one out.
And, that's the thing. It's like everybody goes, well, you got Luka and Kyrie, and you've got the iconic Boston Celtics. And
the Celtics on name alone, sure. But is there anybody on that team that's remarkable personality-wise?
That's the point. Is everything is such about the superstar in the NBA now, not about teams anymore.
Right.
I mean, I know people who are LeBron James fans. Now, right now, they're a Laker fan.
Sure.
They used to be a Cavs fan. They were a Heat fan. Then they were a Cavs fan. They're a LeBron fan. Like, there are people who are Steph Curry fans. If Steph Curry left Golden State and started playing, because he was a kid in Charlotte. Let's say he decided he wanted to go to Charlotte for whatever reason. Would they really be Charlotte fans? Yeah, I guess they need to be Hornet fans because they love Steph Curry. That's where this thing is kind of at right now. It's more of NBA fans, unless you live in a city with a team, the nation, a lot of people are just fans of stars.
Yes.
So, to your point of the Celtics right now, yes, everyone knows the Celtics, big brand. Boston's a big TV market. But, I mean, Tatum and Brown seem like decent guys, but nobody's like wowing you with charisma, right?
I was going to say, how much did attendance dip for Miami when the big three left?
Sure. Right. Nobody said, that's okay. We just love the Heat.
Yeah, no. Nobody said that.
No, it's a different vibe in the NBA. And you've got to have that star, not just star. It goes to another level. It's not the star that NBA fans know. It's the star that the casual fan knows.
Exactly. Because, look, diehard NBA fans, they're going to watch regardless. You've got them hooked. You have to go do something that's going to find that person that's kind of on the fringe that, they're interested in basketball, but not enough to sit down every single night and watch it. But if you give them something compelling like, hey, guess what? It's going to be LeBron and Steph Curry tonight. Hey, I'll watch that.
Right. If you're into ball, you know Luka Doncic.
Sure.
You get how skilled Luka is. You understand it. You also get, Tatum and Brown and how the Celtics run offense and they play defense. If you're a basketball head.
Yes. And at the same time, we're at kind of a crossroads now. We had played that funny TikTok a while back of, the person that was doing the in memoriam of the stars of yesterday, as things are switching over. So it is becoming Luka. It is becoming Anthony Edwards. It is becoming Joker. Like, these are your next stars. How does the NBA promote these guys where they're eventually going to have that crossover appeal of a Steph, of a James Harden, of a LeBron, of a Draymond, whoever it may be, to where you can continue to have that success going forward when those huge names end up retiring?
Right, and it's just right now you are in this weird thing where the next wave has got to kick into the casual fan. I'll give you a great example, and it doesn't matter because this sport is as popular as the NBA, but Connor McDavid, the best player in the NHL, is finally playing for a Stanley Cup.
Yes.
Right now they're down 2-0, but
it's still there.
The best player in the game is playing for a championship.
Right.
So if the NBA had a clear greatest player in the game right now, clear greatest player in the game that let's say the casual fan knew of this great player and the journey to become an NBA champion.
Yeah. Well,
these ratings would go boom.
Yeah, like if they had a Patrick Mahomes right now,
a
young guy that is unequivocally probably the best player in the NFL. You got great players across the league, and Anthony Edwards seems to be kind of emerging as maybe one of those next guys. And, he has the personality to boot,
Yep.
which, as silly as it sounds, you need clips to go viral from press conferences to get people interested in the NBA sometimes, and Anthony Edwards gives you that.
Yeah, like my son, 17, loves Anthony Edwards.
Exactly.
And so he's a huge Timberwolves fan. He loves Giannis. He's a huge Bucks fan.
Yeah.
My kid has no connection to the Milwaukee Bucks and Minnesota Timberwolves to save his life. He couldn't tell you where the state of Minnesota is, probably. But you know what? He loves Anthony Edwards. He loves Giannis. Matter of fact, we, for his birthday, took him to a
that's right.
Bucks-Sixers game in Philly because he wanted to go see Giannis.
You guys ended up in the wrong car, right?
It was so funny. So funny. Wow. I don't think this is our car. Let's get out. Then my first thought is, what can we steal? No, anyway. So it's a superstar-driven league, but it's got to be the right superstars. It's got to be the superstar for the casual fan, not just the basketball head.
Sure.
That's the difference right now with the. And the other part is, real quick, we get this idea because ESPN shoves the NBA down your throat so hard because the NBA appeals to a younger demographic that obviously ESPN wants.
Right.
NBA's ratings aren't much different than baseball.
They're not.
And the NBA's ratings are nowhere near as good as college football.
Right.
But we get this perception, whoa, the NBA's big. It's not as big as you think.
No.
But the difference is baseball's audience is old, and ESPN doesn't care about them. They care about the younger audience the NBA has.
And I don't think it helps either, and this is my gripe with the NBA, that regular season doesn't matter all that much. Like, yeah, if you're a team, if you're over 500, you got a pretty good shot at making the playoffs because half the league gets in. The real basketball doesn't start until April.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what makes you want to care about a game taking place in the middle of January?
You don't.
You shouldn't.
And that's baseball's issue, too, in hockey. The regular, those seasons are so long, people check in now at certain points because they know they don't have to check in earlier.
Baseball was a little better when they hadn't opened up the playoffs as much, when it was a little more exclusive. I'm not saying it was just, the NL champion versus the AL champion. No, when you had to be literally one of the handful of teams that was at the top of your either division or the one wild card spot, then that was very exclusive. Now it's opened up so much where it's like, all right, like the Braves, they're 6-7 games back of the Phillies. Like, I can still make the playoffs.
They're still in the playoffs, right? As long as they get it together. On this day in 2017, the first season of Kevin Durant in Golden State, the Warriors won the NBA championship. I saw this metric thing they did on ESPN about the best teams, single-season teams in NBA history since Jordan's Bulls. The number one team, it's a single season. The number one team, the 16-17 Warriors.
Yep, they were pretty good.
They were a machine. All right. And again, a lot of this is NHL and NBA. Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup. They're fourth in Penguins history. In 2016 with Sidney Crosby, they beat San Jose.
Wait, can I throw one out there? Are you a fan of Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Oh, of course I am.
So today is the day that Brad Hamilton made manager of Mighty Mart.
Was he?
The clip at the end of the movie.
Yes.
After he throws the coffee on the guy.
Yeah.
And they do like the little, where everybody ended up. Like, yes, June 12th is the day that he made manager of Mighty Mart. Yep.
I tell you what, movie's classic. Again, my generation has Fast Times at Ridgemont High and other, 80s, 90s movies like that, right?
Sure.
So my girlfriend and I, who are about the same age, we're sitting there, and Fast Times at Ridgemont High came on, I think it was HBO, Showtime, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there watching, because again, I'm going to watch a little bit of it, right? So again, my youngest comes downstairs. What's this? We go through the big explanation.
Sure.
And he sits down for like 10 minutes. He gets up and he goes, guys, that's really not that funny. I grounded him.
Oh, man. See,
Grounded him.
I'll be quick here. My wife's sister, she's 20, right around 20. She just graduated from college, but she watched Dazed and Confused and didn't get it.
What?
And I was like,
what?
How do you not get it? She's like, it was boring.
You're never allowed in this house again.
It's like,
Ever.
I'm not even going to start.
Christ, hey, this is your world sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We'll come back in here. Firehouse subtext the hour, 803-404-6100. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. All right. Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-446-100 halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Yeah. You want to hit that button on there? Turn your mic on there, fella?
Well,
there you go.
It's not my. I mean, you got your stuff all over it.
That's because you're not. Got to have stuff sitting here, man.
You guys have an amazing ability to make it seem like it's always me.
Oh, well, you know.
I was
And
gonna
hey,
say,
this is
yeah.
Tyler. Look, it's
I
Tyler's
know.
back.
It's
I
the
know.
Tyler Head Sports
so-
Experience.
Hey.
Should we walk him through my
Oh,
password?
ready before we
saga?
get to the Firehouse sub text of the hour.
Wait, password is not like
So-
a safe word, right?
No, this is so good. Go ahead.
So I was filling in for Bill since last Thursday, which that means I don't come in here and produce from 12 to 3. So I've not been in this studio in a week.
Ah.
And I have to log into our computer to do a various number of things during the show. I didn't remember my password. After trying every combination I can think of, looking through my phone, I couldn't find it. I was like, all right, I got to reset the password. So text the engineer, how do I reset my password? Sends me to a link of a website. Well, it asks for the old password, so that's not going to work. Got to find another one. Have to reset it again. I reset it again eventually, but apparently it takes a couple of hours to reset in the system, so I still have not been able to log in to the computer.
Takes a couple of hours.
That's
what
what
he
we were
says.
told.
What is this, like 1974?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
So
You got
it's
one of those
been a-
computers that's as big as an apartment?
I was just saying, one of those. Remember every movie from the 70s where they walk by the computer?
Good
We've got
Lord.
those computers.
A couple of hours.
Couple
How
hours.
This stuff happened at the speed of light.
That's what
You
I
ever
thought
watched
too.
my computer boot up on the 19th floor? Nothing happens in the speed of light.
I'm gonna.
How about this one here? You use this one sitting
I
on the
do.
live stream here, right here.
That's great.
This computer. Does that one kick right in?
Sure. As far as you know, Tara.
What, about 4:30?
I'm not saying anything else.
Spinny thing stop about 4:30.
I'm not saying anything else.
By the way,
Firehouse
I
sub-
tried again. It still doesn't work.
Still doesn't work. Maybe tomorrow. Firehouse subtext of the hour. And by the way, this is not the fault of our local engineering department. This is just what we have.
I'll take your word for
Just
it.
say that there.
All right.
It's not anybody's fault. Our engineer didn't build the computers.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
He-
These aren't.
I think they
Anyway.
came over from our old building, but
Yeah. Which year?
did I say that out loud?
Didn't hear a word.
you got?
Firehouse subtext of the hour, 803-446-100. What do you got?
Yeah. So Jerry asked the question: how many coaches in history have made it to Omaha with 3 different teams? That would be what Mainieri would be attempting to do here.
With 3.
13 have made it with 2. That's a great question. Jeez, we got to send him something. No, I don't think anybody has, have they? Gustafson got there with 2, right?
Garrido. I don't think. I did
Only once in Texas, right? Garrido got there with Cal State Fullerton and with Texas.
Garrido's one of the only ones to win.
Gustafson only got
at
there with
2.
Texas, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he ever. I don't know where else he might have coached.
No, I don't either. I think he was only Texas. Garrido got there with 2.
I can't think of anybody.
Who got there with 3?
I can't think of anybody that's been with 3. There might be someone.
We
but
just gave the 13 have done 2.
But again, I don't even know how many have won it. Again, Coach Garrido won titles
With
at
2.
2 schools.
I don't know. I want to just research. That's a great. We're gonna have to research that one. That's a good one.
I'm attempting to find the answer before we wrap up here.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Man, that is a good
you
one.
got me on that one. If there is, I don't. Like I say, I don't. I wouldn't think.
Because Schloss has got there with 2
Yep.
from A&M.
But he hadn't won a title yet.
He didn't win a title.
Not that we're not talking about winning titles.
We
I
were
get
just saying
that.
getting there.
Yeah, getting there. And he's great.
Yeah.
They might win this year, man. They're
Johnson's been there with 2. Got there with Arizona. And LSU won the title with LSU. Got there with Arizona.
He did. There, yeah. As well. Again, there's 2. I don't know if there
a
is
tough
somebody
one.
with 3.
That's a
Yeah, I'm just kind of
phenomenal question.
I'm skimming the list here. I see a lot of 2s. I have not seen a 3 yet.
I don't know that there is one.
Larry Cochell,
Oh yeah.
Oral Roberts, Cal State Fullerton, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Wow, there's the one.
Well, that's one that I've seen so far. I'm not seeing any others.
Because he
yet.
was there. Did he was at Fullerton before Coach Garrido, right?
He was at Fullerton. He took him there in 88 and 90.
Yeah, he was there before Augie.
Didn't Coachell, didn't that thing at Oklahoma end poorly? There's some controversy at Oklahoma, I thought,
don't know.
where he left.
Maybe.
Because remember, that was a high-level guy.
Yeah. No, I mean,
High-level guy.
Fullerton had him and then Augie and then George Horton, and then George Horton left to go to Oregon, which really surprised me, except for the fact that Oregon doubled his pay.
Andy Lopez, Pepperdine, Florida, Arizona. Also,
There's another one.
Andy Lopez,
Andy Lopez.
was Arizona's coach when they beat South Carolina. And, yeah, he took Florida, Heath always told me, kind of unexpectedly in the mid-'90s. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh.
That's a good question.
Yeah, the ending for Larry Coachell, not good.
Oh.
There was controversy.
Way to go, Tyler. You got that
Nice
quick.
job, Tyler. Good work. So two, we know of two.
That's all that I'm seeing so far.
All
All
right.
right. That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool.
Okay, we appreciate it. You got a post-game show coming
Yeah,
here?
David Cloninger is coming up on, how did this happen? That's the question. Yeah. All right.
Read that while I do a little live thing. Post-game show's next. Tyler, fine job, except for the passwords. Good job, man. (803-875-MENS). The Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Dr. Dan and the staff. I mean, these are, medical professionals, not former Hall of Fame baseball players or iconic college football players. These are actually people who, if you do have low testosterone, can help you. You're not texting a number that Frank Thomas says she'll like it too. You're actually going to talk to real professionals who will listen to your story and what's going on with you while you don't feel like the man you used to be. And if they think it could be low testosterone, they'll do some lab work. If it is low T, they will put you on a personalized program, a medical program, to help you get back to being you again. Again, it's 803-875-MENS. You can listen to Frank Thomas, Doug Flutie, Andy Van Slyke, or a real doctor, Dr. Dan at the Men's Clinic and his staff, to get you feeling like you again. Men's Clinic of South Carolina.